Jessie. Welcome to What If I Say Yes? How are you?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm fine. Um, I had to wake up very early this morning.
Oh no.
So I hope it doesn't show. I'm gonna try to be very awake.
Can't tell now. So you're doing great.
Thank you. So Jessie, tell my audience, who are you?
Sure. I'm Jessie Buccafusco. I should I talk about how we met or how we know each other?
After you say who are you, how do you define yourself?
Okay. I don't know why that's a hard question. I am a mother of two young boys and who are 8 and 5, Gus and Wally. I'm married to Marty, who you know very well. And I work in the like kind of digital media world as a consultant.
Okay. So now tell the audience how we know each other.
Sure. When I lived in New York about 6 years ago and was there for several years, and during that time I got to know your brother Hector through my husband Marty. They were very good friends. They worked started out like I think working together, and then became fast friends, and Hector was kind of always a fixture in our lives. He was there the day my first son was born. He was there for birthdays and all of our big moments, and knew he and his family very well.
I'm just remembering there's a video of when Marty proposed to you.
Yes. Oh,
Was
yeah.
Hector the one with the music, like with the
He
bimbo?
was. He was, like I said, he was there for all the big moments. Yeah.
So, yes. And I kind of remember I don't know if yes, I must have met you before Hector passed. So I remember in his apartment, um, being sitting in the kitchen. I guess my parents were around, and
Mhm.
you and Marty um, were telling us about your lives. I don't
I
remember
remember
when that
that
was.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know if that was before or during, but I remember that moment too.
Mm-hmm. And so, yes, you are married to my interviewee number 2 in this series, Marty. Marty, and he's the brother that I adopted after Hector passed. So yes, we have been in each other's lives for quite a while now.
Mhm.
Um, so you, I don't know if Marty convinced you. We wanted you to
Uh,
be here, and we wanted you to let you be interviewed by me. Um, and then I don't know what happened. I don't know if Marty finally convinced you or tell us
he
the
did not,
secret.
he really didn't convince me. I mean, I saw your message. We exchanged information. He did not nudge me at all.
Oh,
So I just said yes.
oh, good.
Yeah.
So this is a more special yes for me because he didn't have to do anything. You thought it was um, worth your time. So thank you for having said
Yeah,
yes to this. So now,
of course.
Jessie, tell us, what was a moment in your life when you asked the question, what if I say yes? You said yes and you did something. I don't know what it is.
Yeah. I was thinking about this last night and this morning, and one kind of moment that came to mind was Marty and I were in Hawaii for around our wedding anniversary every year. We were prior to having kids, like taking a trip together, and this was maybe our second trip, and we went to Hawaii and had a wonderful trip together. We were in the Big Island and riding all around and having lots of adventures. And one afternoon, we were on top of this mountain eating donuts. You believe it or not, there's great donuts in Hawaii at
Okay.
what seems to be a truck stop. But a friend of mine is from Hawaii and told us about this place. I think it's called Texas or something, but we went as much as we could, and it was amazing. So we were standing on top of this mountain eating donuts, And, we had talked about, we've been married for a couple of years, and we knew that, eventually we wanted to have a family, but we kept kind of putting off, like, well, let's get through this. Let's get through this wedding. Let's get through this holiday. Let's be married for a while. Let's, get through this birthday. And there never seemed to be like a perfect time. And I'm very like planful person. And I want, especially like bringing a child into the world, I felt like it was within my control to have like everything perfect, like financial stability, a beautiful home, like a solid job that will never go away, which is all completely unrealistic. And so he asked on top of the mountain while eating donuts, like, can we start trying to have a child? And rather, definitely my initial desire was to say, let's just get through, because it was September. So I'm like, let's get through Halloween. Let's get through Thanksgiving. Let's get through Christmas. And um, I said yes. So, and then we were pregnant, within a couple of months. And now we have, not one, but two awesome kids. And um, it also made me kind of realize, like I said, the irrational idea that I had that like everything will be perfect, because life isn't that way. And it, made me more willing to take on risk and kind of jump into things, even if it's not all sorted out.
Do you remember what made you say yes at that moment? Was it the donut? Was it Hawaii? Was it the view?
Probably the donut. No, so we had a pretty lengthy discussion on top of the mountain with the donuts, and we talked about like what are the fears of not only just like missing out on fun or not paying attention to it, but what are the actual fears? And I talked about kind of like the the crazy thing of like being pregnant and having a baby. Like when you talk about it, it sounds insane. Like you're growing a person inside of your body. Like, no, why does this happen? And why is this how humans are made? Like it's bananas. And I think as society, we're just like, yeah, ladies get pregnant and ladies have babies, and like that's just part of life. But if you put any thought towards it, it seems like completely crazy. So we like talked through that and the fears around that. And eventually was kind of like, it's, these are fears and they're present and they exist. And sure, like anything could happen, but kind of, I don't know what made me willing to like take the risk on, but, and I'm not a risky person at all. So, um, I think it was knowing like we have a shared ambition to have a family, and though there will kind of coming to the realization there will never be a perfect moment to do this, and it also might take a while. So um may as well get after it now.
Did you say yes after finishing eating your donut? Or did you still have it in your hand when you said yes?
I think the donut was gone by the end of the conversation, and there was like laughter and tears and a lot of discussion. And I remember, like Marty mentioned, his father had died a few years prior to that, and he had mentioned that I think one of the things his dad had said to him, like in those final days, was like, "Don't wait, like just don't wait for life to pass you by, and take advantage of you've got." There's a lot of great things that can happen, and having kids was one of his, biggest joys of life. And they're like, what are you waiting for? Like, what are you putting it off for? Like, you've had a great life and you will have a great life. It will just be a different one. And just kind of accepting that was, and hearing that was compelling.
It's funny that you said you were at the top of the mountain, because that kind of yes feels like you decided to jump.
Yeah.
Not like, should I not? And then you had to be up here to then say yes.
Yeah.
Did
Felt
you
that
have a good
way.
landing?
Yeah, we did. We were just like lucky in a lot of ways that it was, especially like my first pregnancy was a breeze, and Gus was a wonderful, perfect baby, as perfect as a baby can be, I guess, and made it just really easy and enjoyable. So much so that we had a second one. So, and maybe not as easy the second time, but you know, we were much more resilient, and that alone has been an adventure too. Like just, I think it's just interesting the way that people behave and interact, and thinking about why Wally, our second child, is different than our first is always a fun thing to just think about. It's not just who he is as a person, but it's that he's always grown up next to another child, and
Mhm.
that creates like a different dynamic. And what do we contribute to that, and what don't we? And that's just the environment that he's living in. But yeah, we've had a good landing. Yeah.
Have you ever talked to your mom about when she decided to have kids?
You know, I have never talked to her about that.
No?
You mentioned it. No. And she had kids, like she was 27 when she had me and 25 when she had my brother. But we never talked about it. No.
Because like for example with my mom or in my mom's generation, I don't think there was much thought. It was you get married and then you start having kids and then you figure life out as you go. But for my generation, it was more like I remember being like you. I wanted to have a lot of things in place before we decided to have a kid. So Carlos was still doing his PhD. I was working. We were already married, and it took us 7 years to say yes to having a kid. But I remember one time, so when people would ask, I would say, because we don't have money, like it's expensive to have a kid in New York City or New Jersey. And I
Yeah.
was like, there's a lot of money that you have to pay. And then I remember my oldest brother reminded me of a saying in Mexico that says that basically you don't have to worry, because when a kid is coming, they always come with a torta, um, like here,
Yeah.
in between their arms or something like that. Una torta debajo del brazo, algo, something like that. So, meaning that whenever the kid is born, things start happening and problems get solved, and you find a way as a
Yeah.
parent to make it happen. So, and then, well, one day we had Maya. So, anyway,
Yeah. It's interesting because my mom did have two kids and my aunt has none. And I've never really talked about, why, how she made a decision. And I like, clearly my aunt, I believe had like, it was a choice. I don't know if it was like a health issue or anything like that.
mhm.
So, yeah, that's a good conversation I should have with her. But I love what was your brother that said, talked about the
Luis.
torta.
Mhm.
Yeah, like that's totally true. And I for that, it's like kind of keeps life interesting that I like to solve problems. It's what I do every day at work. And
Mhm.
some of the problems with the kids can be very annoying. But also it's like, because they're your kid, you're gonna always put them, first, and you're going to
Mhm.
find a way to fix it. And they do. It's interesting how they just like wedge themselves into your life. Like even if you were to not make any more money or not have a bigger house, like you'll find a place for them to sleep, and you'll find a way to put food in their mouth, like you just do, which is
Mhm.
pretty cool to see how people adapt. Um, and I will say, like being around Hector and um, watching him with his kids, and he's a little older than us, and like it was nice to see like, okay, like we still see him, so you don't just disappear when you have kids, and
Mhm.
you can like bring them along to stuff, and sometimes you have to leave early because like they lose it or it's too late or whatever. But that was really inspiring to be like, your life doesn't have to come to a complete halt, and you don't just go sit at home and take care of kids constantly. Like they're a part of your life, and your life is outside of your home sometimes. So
Mhm.
um we honestly could use a little more of that. I think these days we get very stuck in a rut, and I think it's nice to kind of help the kids realize that things can be unexpected and spontaneous.
So all these years later and 2 kids in, if you compare your life to the list you had of the things you wanted to have before having kids, how many do you have? How many have you checked off, even though it wasn't in that order?
Yeah. We bought a house. We bought our second house, recently. So that happened.
Mhm.
We have not traveled the world, but we did go to
Yet?
Scotland. Yes, we did. We did go to Scotland when Gus was 2, and he stayed at home. But we were able to do that, so that
Uh-huh.
was an accomplishment in its own. Um, we've not the even as the economy has gone up and down and we've changed jobs, we've never been in a moment where it's we have no one, no income and we're in big trouble. We could have been having a child this whole time. There was no, you know, moment where it was we really shouldn't have done this.
Mhm.
We moved, which was a big deal. But we also lived in New York City. We were able to go to plays and hang out with our friends and everyone. It's funny, we were the first of our kind of local, aside from Hector, the first of the younger folks to have friends. I guess we're older than everyone else too, and um, they all were his babysitters, and it was just this constant revolving door of all of our friends. And like I said, he
Oh,
was an
wow.
easy baby, so it was you hold him in your arms and you swing him and you sing 3 songs and then you put him to sleep and he literally goes to sleep. So that we recently went to up to upstate New York with all of those friends, and we were calling them the babysitter club, and they all now have kids too. But it was funny to see these were all the people that took care of him and helped us still maintain an identity in those early years when it can be really hard. So that helped a lot. But I don't feel other than travel, more travel and more time doing interesting things with Marty in terms of things that we haven't done.
Mhm.
I wish we could do more of that. But I wouldn't trade it, for the
Mhm.
the world,
Mhm. And they'll come. I mean, I'm thinking of Maya. Maya is going to start 8th grade. So then it's 5 more years. If she decides to go to college, because that's also an unknown, we
Yeah.
have 5 more years with her that can just pass in the blink of an eye.
Yeah.
And then we're going to be the other day, she went to a sleepover. And I was missing her so much. And then I turned to Carlos and said, if she goes away for college, whenever she does, I'm going to be freaking out. I'm going to be like, oh, where's my baby?
Yeah. Oh, 100%. I joke, and I'm also not joking. It's hard when you have 2 because who knows where they'll end up in college. But I'm well, I guess we'll just be moving wherever they go because I want to still see them. I want the freedom a little bit, but I also want to be there or close by. But he's we can't follow them everywhere they go. But that will be its own adventure. But you're right. All this time will pass by so fast, and we will all miss it greatly.
You'll have
But
time to
yeah.
travel the world, and then you'll be like, oh, I wonder what Gus and Wally are doing.
Totally. Or we'll just be too old and tired and I don't know, it'll be harder. But yeah, I'd like to find a middle ground, where we do
Mhm.
things together. And, we have in the last few years, gone on some vacations, all within the United States. But I like those adventures. It's fun to go see new things with them and create new memories. So yeah, that's kind of the compromise, I think, for now.
Mhm. So I'm curious now, in your circle of friends, um, did they go through the same process you and Marty had? Did they think about having kids as much as you did? Or was it easier for them, or was it more difficult? What is your sense of them?
I think most of them were also got married a little later in life. I think we were 29 when we got married, and most of them were maybe just a little older. And I think because of the pressure of being older and they knew they wanted to have kids, they were like, let's get, and some of them had trouble getting pregnant and making that happen. And then there are a couple that are, I think, on the younger side that had that time to sort of contemplate, do we want to, like, when is the right time? And we did, I remember talking to them to say, like, there is no right time. You just kind of have to do it. If you want to do it, do it. And they did. But yeah, I don't think only one that I can recall is really like hemmed and hawed about the timing and what it means for their life. Yeah.
Yeah. Did you have friends, or do you have friends who decided not to have kids?
I do. Yeah, I'm Marty's brother. He doesn't have, they've decided not to have kids. And um, one of my good friends just got married last year. She desperately wants to have kids and they're trying. But she's a little older and, you know, it's a thing she's going through. But thinking through my other buddies, yeah, I have another friend who doesn't have kids, like one of my best friends. She's single and doesn't have kids and is not really, this is not her thing. Yeah.
Mhm.
But she's a like amazing aunt. Like she really focuses her energy in creating like family and community in different ways,
Mhm.
which is also really cool to see and reminds you that there's like other people to take care of in the world other than your own. So that's nice.
So I'm thinking about my circle of friends, and it was like, if you go generationally, the generation of my parents, I mean, we were five, and my aunt had four, and then they started diminishing. Another had three, and then two. So that was their generation. Then we came along, and it's like my brother had one, Hector had two, my sister had two, Jorge doesn't have any, and I have one.
Mm-hmm.
If I think of my circle of friends, they either, for example, the ones from college, three of us had only one, girls. Another one got married, but they decided from the beginning that they didn't want to have kids, that was not for them. And so, for example, for my friend's 50th birthday, she decided to they have been planning this trip for 2 years. 3 months, they took 3 months to travel to Thailand and Vietnam and Australia. So,
Yeah.
but that's I guess what they were thinking about is we don't want to have kids because we want all these much more than this other part, you know? And then on the fifth one, she just decided she doesn't want to have a partner and she doesn't want to have kids. And she has a very interesting life and she travels all over the world. And so, but then she tells me that her nieces are thinking of not having kids. So it's like, it's at least in the circles that I or the people that I know and the generations that I know, it's kind of diminishing.
It is. I think it really is.
So
And
these years that you are talking about is getting more and more, I don't know if difficult, but they're more and more complex.
yeah, I think there's a lot of, yeah, I imagine there's a lot of reasons why people choose that path as well. And I think the world is also becoming a harder place in some ways. Like, and the thought of bringing someone into it, I think, can be very daunting. And
Mhm.
yeah, I've seen that as well, like a little bit of diminishing. And there's a lot of my colleagues don't have children, and they're my age. And like one of my really good friends and colleagues, Lucy, she lives in Colombia and she's British and she travels constantly. Like she has so many adventures. Like I love
Mhm.
hearing about everything that she does. And she's like so kind and brave and
Mhm.
just like living it's a very full life, and it's
Mhm.
exciting to see there's just different ways to do it.
Mhm.
And I think there's no right or wrong path forward. It's just what works for you, you know?
The first time you talked to Marty about having kids, did you have a number?
Huh. I think we were more like, let's shoot for one. We did talk about, like, at the time, a lot of our friends, 'cause I don't know if they'll watch this podcast, but a lot of our friends are like single children. I will not name names, but like we had a large amount of them around us. And it
Okay.
was funny because we both are from, like, I have an older brother and Marty does too. And um, a lot of behaviors that we saw from these only children, we kind of chalked it up to like, oh, it's because like the way that you grew up and the way, I can understand how, and again, like I like kind of getting into the psychology of things, and we could see these patterns across them. And there were moments where we're like, we don't want to do that to our, like, it would be ideal to have two just so they can be like, functioning in a certain way. But it's not, it's fine. I think there's all kinds of ways to do it. And it was just an observation that we had. But the second time around, it was also like, it wasn't as big of a conversation with Marty, but it was definitely more him that's like, all right, we're gonna do it. Like, let's do it. And we had like just turned the corner with Gus where we could like go out to eat or go on a trip, or
Mhm,
we were very mobile with him. He was,
mhm.
3 or whatever. And we're kind of getting out of the fog of having like a little one. So the thought of going back to that was like, here we go again. Um, but it was not the same, it was totally different in many ways. But yeah, 2 is it though. We're not having any more than that.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, because when Carlos and I were thinking of having kids, I think one day he decided early on, very young age, that he only wanted to have one. But then he met me, and I remember we were seated at a cafe in Jersey City where we were living at the time, and we were planning, and so we said, well, two is a good number, and we were also deciding on names. So what if it's 2 girls or 2 boys or a girl and a boy? And so we had all that set up, and then I had Maya, and then I'm like, oh my goodness. I don't know if I'm gonna ever want to have another one again. And then my sister, who at that point, I think she had had the her 2 kids. So then she said, no, but don't worry. The same thing happened to me after the first born. And then, so you feel you're in this tunnel and everything is dark. And then by 2 and 2.5, you're going to start looking and like seeing the light at the end of the tunnel. And then you're going to start wanting to have another one. So Maya never slept through the night for so many years.
It's exhausting.
By 2 and 2.5, I was like, oh my goodness. I don't think I have another one. And then I started seeing the light at the end of the tunnel, but more like, this is gonna be like, I don't want to have to experience this ever again. And then my sister was like, no, it will come, it will come. So by year 3, I think I called her and said, I don't think I can do this again. I am out of the tunnel.
Yeah.
I'm done.
I
I'm
can
done.
totally
This is it.
understand that.
Okay. Well, this was a lovely yes, and a yes that has brought you and Marty a lot of happiness and a lot of growth as a couple, as a person. Let's switch now to the opposite. What was a moment in your life when you decided that saying no was a much better option?
I didn't think about this one. No. According to Marty, I say no all the time. So this should be,
Really?
this should be very,
You
maybe I
should
say
have
no.
plenty.
Yeah, maybe I say no so much that I can't really distinguish, when it was.
Well, let's start with why does he say that you say no a lot? or why do you think you say no a lot?
I think because I am like generally risk averse
Mhm.
and um it just feels safe, to I can think of a reason why to say no, and it feels like very sound logic. Um, but
Do you
yeah,
know
I
where
think
that comes from? Like, why are you risk averse, and were you always like that?
um pretty much like my family, I come from like divorced family, and um I think there was like my mom and my brother often like had some friction between the two of them. So I always felt like I'm the peacekeeper, like tried to explain to each of them, like, this is where this one's coming from, this is where they're coming from. Like, I think there's common ground. And I think by playing that role and also always like wanting a desire for like calmness.
Mhm.
Um, and I've even realized, like I was mentioning to Marty this morning, like two boys, they're either like wrestling and being crazy and having fun, like having so much fun, like the laughter that they have is like the happiest laughter of all, but it's also like screaming and yelling and rolling around, and like it makes me feel away. And I'm like, I don't know, is it a female thing? Is it a me thing? But like I get very uneasy with the craziness. And then if it's not that, they're fighting and screaming at each other, which is its own like craziness. So
Mhm.
I like a sense of like security and calm. And especially after having kids, I think I became even more, I'm not like way extreme with like helicopter or safety, but I am kind of like probably not worth the risk, and um that's just kind of who I am. I don't know. I may come just from like my childhood, or
Mhm.
it also feels like I guess I've seen people make big mistakes that have been like life changing, and from my perspective, I'm like, could have been easy to avoid. Like if you had just said no to that, like you'd be okay. Um, and think just like a desire to be like a stable, foundation for everything that's like operating around me, might be what drives that. Yeah.
So
Yeah.
your nose, the nose that Marty was talking about, are mostly no's that you say to your kids or to things to do within the family? Or do you also have no's that have to do with your, let's say, your professional life or the life that only belongs to you?
Some have to do with the family, or like he'll have kind of crazy, weird ideas, and he's the other extreme. He's like, "Let's do this crazy thing," and I'm like, sometimes I'm like not interested in it, and then the other side of it is like, is it really the right thing to do? But within my professional life, a lot of it is like built around like measured risk. So I work in like like services type of industry where we make websites and things for our clients, and when we take risk, a lot of that is like on our own, on our own dime. So it costs, and like what's on the line is like if we like put a lot of energy and resources behind trying to pitch a big idea to a client and they say no, we're just like cutting into our revenue. And eventually that means like people may not have bonuses or people may lose their job. And so I'm very, again, like safety and security at my core. I'm like, well, we could also just like do a little bit of that. And so I think for that, like at work, I'm really more focused on like problems. So it happens to just be the nature of my job is like understanding the root cause of issues that are occurring and working towards a solution, or pointing people towards like giving them a starting point, but like now they run with it. So that's kind of like always been my job, I guess. And also at home is sort of who I am as well.
Mhm.
I can think of a time I did say no where I took a job on I said yes to a job that
Mhm.
like I really loved my job at the time and was really like thriving, and I had a great manager, and things were going really well. And it was during the pandemic, and I was working with my manager on like, what is my career plan? Where do I want to be in the next 3 years? And it happened to be that someone reached out to me with a job that looked very much like where I wanted to go, which was a little pretty big turn from where I was.
Mhm.
And I met with my manager and said, like, I feel like I have to say yes. Like, this is what we've been talking about. This we've been planning for this, and it means that I will leave, but this is like what we've been working towards. And she was
Mhm.
like totally supportive, and she's like, you can't say no. You have to leave. You have to go do this. But like, I'll always be here if you want to come back or if you ever want to talk about it or whatever. So I
Mhm.
left my job, took on the new job, which was super scary and a completely different environment, role, a lot of responsibility, a lot of ambiguity. Um, and I like really set myself like focused to be the best I could at this job. But
Mhm.
from the beginning, I had just this like uneasiness, and I kept trying to think like, is it because I'm scared? This is new. Am I scared I'm gonna mess up? Am I rejecting it because it's different? Like really trying to understand and either be comfortable with, like, if it's because I'm scared, be comfortable being scared. If it's different, be comfortable that it's different and like find your new way. Um, and I after 10 months, I finally was like, this isn't for me. And that was really hard to say no because I felt like I had failed
Mhm.
myself and like had taken on this risk, and then like, did I see it through long enough? Like, and
Mhm.
lots of self-doubt around that.
Mhm.
But at the end of the day, like, looking back, it's taken some distance from it, but I feel like saying no was the right thing to do.
Mhm.
Um, it was it's kind of like aligned to my core values, which I'm becoming more familiar with,
Mhm.
and also for me, like there were kind of things about the job where success wouldn't be seen or realized for like 3 years. And for me, selfishly, like I needed to be able to see that like I was impacting change in a much faster way. So,
Mhm.
that's a personal thing. That's not for everybody. So some people
Mhm.
may be like, I can't wait for 3 years to see what I've done. And for me, it
Mhm.
was like, it's not
No.
going to work.
Too long.
Yeah.
Did you go
Yeah.
back to the other job
Yes, I did. And
with your
I
wonderful manager?
yeah, well, yeah, she and I stayed in touch, and through the whole thing, and she's amazing. And she even like introduced me to other places to work. I interviewed at many places, and she said,
Mhm.
I'm gonna keep looking here at where I'm at now to see like if something comes up that I feel like aligns to what you want to do. But talk to this person, talk to that person, and eventually like role opened up. It was different than what I was doing before, but she like completely endorsed me and opened a door for me. And she's still here. She's not my manager, but we still stay connected. She's gone like on and had amazing jobs in this within the same company.
Mhm.
Um, but on yeah, she's like such a champion of mine and has been really supportive.
This may sound very corny, but it just made me think of this phrase of if you really let someone, no, if you really love someone, let them go.
Yeah,
They were really yours in the first place. They'll come back. If not, then they're gone.
yeah,
And
yeah,
she had all that confidence and you go, girl, you do you and go try. And then, well, if it doesn't work, it's an amazing feeling to know that you can go back and she still is there with her open arms and all her support.
yeah. It's like a very she is who she's like a very genuine person. And I remember when she became my manager, and we not only talked about like what's going on, today with your job, with your work projects, with your clients, but like where do you want to be? Where do you see yourself? And how do we, if that's not here, that's fine. But what are your desires and what experiences can we get to get you there? Because it's not just gonna happen by doing like everything you do every day. There's probably new skills that you need to build or new experiences that you need to have. And that's she's like, that's my focus, is to help
Mhm.
you like realize your potential wherever it is. And so
Mhm.
she stayed true to that sentiment. Like when the potential arrived, like she sent me on my way, which was awesome. And I love that about her, that so many people can take these things personally or like best of luck, like kind of almost like wanting you to fail. And
Yeah.
she's certainly not that way. And I really try to take that approach with people that I manage too. And at the end, like they're gonna be excited to learn new things and knowing that it's for them. It's for them. It's not for I don't want you to be great because it benefits my company and me. Like if you like what you're doing and enjoy it and you're learning and you're evolving, like you're more likely to do a good job. There is
Mhm.
that. And like that means that you leave in 3 years to go do something. Like I'll feel really proud that that happened, that we talked about this. I helped you get there.
Mhm.
Like that's a good for all of us.
Mhm. So now I'm just trying to get these two together, the yes and the no. And I want you to think about the team you manage, but also your kids. So two different groups of people you manage. So for example, in your house, knowing that Marty is the yes, 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 and you're more reserved in your yeses. How are you managing to teach your kids about how, when and why, and how to say yes and no's? And then think about the team that you manage, how to teach them to manage these yeses and no's that life, but that we have to say in life.
Hmm.
What would you say?
I mean, with the kids, I think saying yes to something, even if it's scary or feels strange, can be a good thing. Like, and I try to say yes to them more than I do, or have like the patience to engage with something that at face value, I'm like, I'm not interested in this, but like, let's do it. Let's see, try to find the magic in what they see.
Mhm.
Um, and I've been working through Wally's never, given his age and the pandemic and all of that, like he had never really had like his own friends. Like he's always just tagged along
Mm.
with Gus and his friends. And now he's in kindergarten and someone in his class lives next door. And that kid is very keen to come over and see Wally. And Wally is become very protective of his toys. And to the point that when friend comes over, he's like, I want you to leave. So um trying to open up the world of possibility with him, which I think is related to saying yes. Like what a by saying yes, like what could a friendship look like and what like there are benefits to you and to the other person.
Mhm.
And it might mean hard things like sharing toys and doing things that you may not have had on your agenda for the day, but
Mhm.
um in the end, like sharing an experience with someone or doing, being able to go to their house too, like will bring you more joy, like double the joy than
Mhm.
just like you hoarding your toys and playing with them. So trying to help him out there.
Mhm.
And then with Gus, we were talking last night about would he ever want to do a sleepover, and he's like, yeah, he is very like also like me, like safe, secure rule
Mhm.
follower. And he's like, yeah, I want someone to come here. And I'm like, cool, we can definitely start there. But what if you went, what if you said yes? Like, what if you went to a friend who we all know and trust? We know their family really well, like walking distance from our house. Like, let's try to imagine what that could be like for you too,
Mhm.
which is like scary and exciting. But yeah, more of these like micro moments, I guess, that trying to help them grow as well. Like we can't all just stay the same and not evolve. Like that's not going to be good for anybody.
Mhm.
Um, and then with my team, I think it's about like getting out of it's very easy to get comfortable in the day-to-day work, and really trying to help them see the potential of what could be. Um, that's more ambiguous and requires a lot of like effort and strategic thinking and things that are harder muscles to exercise than like get the project done. Like you can have the call with the client, you can tell the team what the client said, You can tell the client that, things are on track or not. Like that's on the lower end of like expectations, but where you can get a lot of satisfaction and kind of grow in your career is thinking about like the future and what could we do for them, and like galvanizing people to get behind that idea and help you form that. So that's something we're working on as we look at like what's next year for our, what are we doing next year with our clients? Because weirdly, you have to start planning that now. So yeah.
Very nice. Very nice. Well, Jessie, we have covered the yes and the no, and we've combined them. Thank you very much for having said yes to coming on to What If I Say Yes.
Yeah.
Send me whatever pictures, images you can share, would like to share about this conversation. Please send them my way.
Okay.
And thank you so much.
Yeah, no, I'm glad I said yes. This was awesome conversation. And I was talking to Marty this morning and I'm like, I'm not interesting. I have nothing really to share, and this is going to be super boring. But I mean, in terms of like, will people watch or care? I don't know, but I enjoyed the time with you, and I always like talking with you. So thank you for
Thank you.
asking me to do it.
Thank you so much. I never know how many people are going to watch these videos or not. I basically do them for my family.
Yeah.
So I know that my parents watch every single one of them.
Oh, amazing.
So if they like them, I'm very happy. And I know they're going to love this conversation. And Marty is going to love this conversation as well, I'm sure.
You will. Wonderful.
Yeah.
Well, hi to your parents. Nice to see you. And and yeah, always good to see you. So
Thank you so much, Jessie. Well, have a lovely day. And let's get on with more yeses and nos. Every time I say nos in plural, I'm worried that it's gonna sound like my nose. Well, I'm hoping that people, if they don't get it, that they get it by the context, not by my pronunciation.
yeah,
The
I think
yeses
it's
and the
cute.
nos.
Yeah.
Well, thank you. Have a beautiful day, Jessie.
You too.
Send me pictures.
I will. Okay.
And say hello to
Bye.
Gus, Wally, and Marty.
I will. Same on your side.
Thank you.
Bye.
Bye.